Matt, we have so much to talk about this week. This is a jam-packed episode. I think we are going to give the most comprehensive Apple's buyer guide of all time, ready for Black Friday and Christmas and holidays and all that. But I do have to say before we start, I'm on UPS alert because my MacBook Pro is finally delivering today. So if you see me jump out of this chair and run downstairs when the doorbell rings, that's why. It was stuck in China for, I want to say, 6 days. It was supposed to come Monday, didn't come, a lot of delays, but finally today is the day, and I cannot wait to finally try this thing out.
You know what's funny? I wonder what the logistics are behind the scene. I'm sure it's incredibly complicated, but so I actually ended up returning my 14-inch. We talked about this a little bit last week because I want to get the Max processor. But I returned it, and the next day it arrives at the Apple facility. But when you want to buy it, it takes weeks. So it's I understand they have to make the computer, but yours clearly had shipped and it just took forever to get here. But when you want to ship it back to Apple, they'll take it immediately.
Yeah, I understand too. I can't even imagine with the supply chain issues and the backup. We hear all this stuff about the port of LA is all backed up and all this stuff. I can't even imagine what it's like to ship right now. And that must be hard during normal times. Also, even harder during as we enter peak holidays. And then on top of that, there's all these other logistic issues. So that is tough. So I definitely recommend if you can go to an Apple store, that's the easiest way to do this. Are you gonna go to an Apple store? Because I think they have some pretty good spec 16-inch MacBook Pros or 14-inch. Well, I guess that's the issue. Are you going 14 or 16? Because 16, you can walk into a store and be good. 14, it's gonna take some time.
Nah, get out of here with that 16. I'm not doing the 16 train. I'm still on 14. I just want the little bit more RAM and higher processor. And I think we can get into this too. A few other people agreed with us. That brings us to our hotline. That anyone who wants to participate, you want to ask us any questions, give us feedback, anything like that, we do have the Apple Circle hotline, which is 949-354-3508. So you can call, you can text, and give us your feedback. But yes, someone called in here and agreed with me. They jumped on the 14-inch MacBook Pro train. They've been loving it so far. We kind of mentioned that he asked what specs, and we have specs all over the place, but and we'll get into some other points in those questions because we got a lot to talk about. But yeah, this week we're doing the holiday gift guide, and as we're going through each product category, there's a lot. I mean, if you're looking for a gift, you really kind of got to narrow it down. There are some things you should get. There are some things you shouldn't get. There's a lot of things you shouldn't get. What do you want to start with? Should we start with, I think the most interesting thing we should start with is not necessarily the products, but rather some of the tips that you may not realize going into buying some of these products.
100%.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think one of the issues a lot of people make, or I guess an issues people run into when going to buy an Apple product during the holiday season, I guess anytime, is there's a very common misconception that you have to buy directly from Apple, and you don't have to go that route. Oftentimes, it is cheaper and easier to not go through Apple, and a lot of people think, oh, well, Black Friday, Apple's going to have these great deals or holiday deals. Apple doesn't really do discounts or deals. I think they do some Black Friday deals, but they're very limited, and they're not honestly very good. I think you're honestly...
The only time I can think of a real good deal, and it's not really even I guess it is. You can consider it a deal, but it's like the back to school where you get something free with your purchase. Other than that, they don't really discount things very often unless you're looking at buying the older product, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, Apple is what it is, and then you go to the other retailers to find those deals and those specials.
If you're a student, there is obviously the Apple Student Program. I guess if you're a student, an educator, or you work in education, you can go that route and get a bit of a discount. Yes. And then that works also online and in store, so that's sort of something you can consider. But oftentimes, B&H, Amazon, Best Buy, Adorama, I mean, there are tons of other online and even brick-and-mortar retailers as well that oftentimes have better deals on Apple products. So that would be my first recommendation is, as we talk about these products and you sort of write down your wish list, don't get married to the idea of having to buy through Apple. It is convenient and nice, but it is not always necessary. And also another tip, just as we sort of talk logistics, is order early, because some of these products are very much backed up. I think I mentioned last week, trying to get my mom an Apple Watch for her birthday. They are months out, especially depending on the band you get and the size. So you want to make sure you order early, get what you want, and get it all researched, because if you order now, you might just sort of just make that cutoff to get it in time for the holidays. So make sure you do your due diligence and get those orders placed early. And any other tips, Matt, before we jump into this?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but brick and mortar is probably another good one. Instead of just going to the Apple Store, go to places like Best Buy, Costco, Target even. Like you don't really think about Target as a tech store, but they do sell a lot of these products. So yeah, just kind of think outside the box of where do they sell Apple products that I may not typically shop. A lot of times you'll get lucky because people also forget that you can buy them there. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest tip. I've always had a good luck with going to like Best Buy and even Target. So, and then Costco, if you have a Costco membership, you got great returns. You got all kinds of good stuff with Costco, and they sell pretty much everything, I think. There was a little while there where they only sold a few products, but now I think you can pretty much get everything there. And since it requires a membership, you might get more lucky there because not as many people are buying there. But yeah, I think those are the biggest things, is just don't always think of Apple as being the only way to do it. But at the same time, always check Apple, because sometimes they restock and it comes in and you can buy it like in the morning, but you can't buy it in the afternoon. Like, so if you're really looking for something, just stay on top of it, keep looking. You'll probably get lucky, but at the very least, you'll know if it's available somewhere.
I guess to that point, too, we are now officially in the Apple Extended Return Holiday Program. So if you buy something now, I think almost all items from Apple directly, you can return them, I think, through like January 15th or something like that. So just know that if you order something now and you want to wrap it up and give it to a family member or a friend or whoever later on in December, you still have some time with that return window. So don't think that you have 30 days or 2 weeks. You are in an extended return period window, so you do have some time. So you're not going to get penalized for buying products early.
Exactly. I will say this is not a tip. You should not do this, but a little hack I just realized when I was returning my MacBook Pro is you have your 2-week window, right? Typically, not in the holiday season, but typically you have your 2 weeks. So you have to initiate the return if you bought it online by the last day. But once you do that, you have like another week and a half before you actually have to send it in. I'm not saying you should do anything with that. My computer's gone. I did not do that, but I'm just saying. It's something to know.
If you wanted to try the MacBook Pro, maybe there's a way to do it. Not condoning it, but just saying that exists. So do with that information what you want. Anyways, Matt, so I guess there's so much to jump into. I'm getting my words fumbled because I'm so excited. Let's start with iPhone. And I do want to preface this whole thing also by saying that some of these products we will recommend you buy, but it might not be the best to buy if you are looking for the latest and greatest. As we get to those products, we will mention that, but just know that according to rumors, some of these products may be imminent, or maybe rather getting an update imminently. So just sort of know that some of this stuff might be a little old in the next few months if you care about that stuff. Otherwise, these are still great products that you should consider. So first things first, Matt, let's talk iPhone. What is sort of your de facto iPhone recommendation for 95% of people as we head into the end of 2021?
So typically around this time, I would always say whatever the quote unquote normal iPhone is. So for instance, with the 11 series, that would be the iPhone 11. With the 12 series, that would be the iPhone 12. Now with the iPhone 13 though, I'm a little bit conflicted. Typically, I would say the iPhone 13, either the mini or the regular, because it's the most well-rounded phone. If you get that phone, you're going to be very happy. But at the same time, they are still selling the iPhone 12. And for all intents and purposes, they are the same phone. Like, yes, you're getting a slightly better camera, but in our tests, you're not really noticing a difference there. Yeah, the battery life is a little better, but again, not that big of a difference. And functionally and physically, they look the same. I don't know. What do you think? I'm conflicted whether you should recommend the 13 or the 12 for the vast majority of people, because you're saving that money if you go with the 12.
Honestly, I think that I totally agree with you. It depends on the discount. So if you can find the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13 at $100 difference, I would probably just go with the 13. You're going to get a little bit more future-proof. You're going to get all those bells and whistles and just sort of have the latest and greatest, I think it's worth it for that $100 difference. But if you see a $150, $200, or even a more significant difference, which can occur through carriers and rebates and stuff like that, then I would definitely consider the iPhone 12 more closely because, like Matt said, the differences with the 13 are not that big of an upgrade. The cameras are essentially the same. That smaller notch is not even all that noticeable. Same sizes. I would honestly look and see what deals there are to be had, and if you can save $150 or more, I'd honestly recommend the 12 or 12 mini. If you can find it at a closer price point, then I'd probably go with 13. I guess to that point as well, 12 mini versus 13 mini is a little bit of a tougher question because there is a better battery life that should be significantly better in terms of performance and usage on the iPhone 13 mini. So I think if you're considering 12 mini or 13 mini, I'd probably go 13 mini. But for the vast majority of people, 12 versus 13, unless you find a really good deal, I would probably stick with the 13. But if there is a good deal, save your money and go with the 12 by all means.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I guess kind of going back to our where to find discounts, which I think we didn't actually mention, is the carrier stores.
Mm-hmm.
For iPhones especially, during the holidays, you're going to find some crazy deals. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if with new activation, you can get a 13 for free. I would not be surprised to see that. So if you find a crazy deal like that, obviously get the 13, get the best one you can, honestly, at that point. But yeah, check the carriers, check Apple's. Apple's probably not going to have any deals, but check Best Buy, all those stores. If you can find a good deal, 13 is the way to go. Now, who would you recommend gets a Pro level iPhone? Because they only sell the 13 Pro now. So if you want a Pro one, that's where you're going to get.
Honestly, at least in my opinion, I feel like the people who want the Pros probably already bought themselves the Pros because they sort of want the latest and greatest camera and stuff like that. If you have someone in your life who really is focused on photography, videography, if they are really using this iPhone as a tool, if they want the largest display, if they really want sort of the latest and greatest and they really are that big of an Apple enthusiast who's going to use all of those upgrades, then I'd probably go with the 13 Pro or Pro Max. Also, there are some deals to be found on those as well. But I think that most people will be more than happy with a 12 or 13. So I really wouldn't step up to the 13 Pro unless you know the person you are buying that for is really going to utilize those extra features like the telephoto lens. They shoot a lot of video on their iPhone. They really want a 120 hertz ProMotion display. More often than not, I think the 13 or 12 is probably just the way to go.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And that leads us to, well, they actually sell two other iPhones. The iPhone 11, I wouldn't recommend that. Over the holidays especially, you're going to find such good deals on these newer iPhones. Might as well get the 13 or the 12. But the iPhone SE, this is the most affordable iPhone that they make, but it's also the oldest design. It has the A15 processor, which is still very good, but it doesn't have an updated camera or anything like that. It's just all processing. Do you recommend, who would you recommend gets this phone, or do you recommend anyone get this phone, especially over the holidays when you can probably find some really good deals?
I guess, asterisk, disclaimer, be warned, the iPhone SE will most likely get an update sometime next year, maybe early 2022, which is why Apple's probably going to push these to go on sale and get rid of their existing inventory. But with that said, the update we are expecting is not going to be significant. There probably will not be a redesign. There's not going to be any huge camera improvements. Probably going to look the same, function the same, new processor, 5G support, camera, stuff like that. But as nice as that is, I think the audience of the iPhone SE probably doesn't care about that. So I think this is a great phone for kids, teens. I guess if someone is sort of getting their first smartphone and you want them in the Apple ecosystem with iMessage and Find My and Family Share and stuff like that, this makes a whole lot of sense. Still a great phone, even in 2021. It's also much more affordable. So if someone is a little bit more price conscious, you want to gift them the gift of a phone, but you don't want to break the bank, this is a good way to go as well because, $400, I think, right, it's $399, right? So on full
check right now, but
full,
yeah,
I think full price $399. So even with no discounts and no savings, that's still not bad to get a totally unlocked phone of your choosing and sort of you can use as you see fit. But I think for those who are not huge smartphone enthusiasts, or a child or a teen or someone really sort of getting into their first phone, this is a good way to go, especially if you can save money. But I would caution you again on two things. One is that there is an update coming, and also I think, again, in a lot of cases, I just think the 12 or 13 is for most people a better buy, unless you can really find the SE for like $200 or $300. Maybe that's a good way to go, but I think most people would appreciate the upgrades you get with one of the more modern iPhones. But I don't know. That's my thoughts. What do you think about that, Matt? It's kind of a interesting area of who the iPhone SE is really for, especially with these deep discounts presumably coming with sort of the holidays coming up.
Yeah, it's always been a question who should actually get the iPhone SE, and I think you're spot on with who should get it. But I also would recommend not doing it now, only because I'm sure you're gonna be able to find a deal for an iPhone 12 or an iPhone 13 for $449, which is the price. I just looked it up. $449 for a brand new iPhone SE, which also again will be discounted. But interestingly, my in-laws have the iPhone 8, and they need to get updated. They're someone who typically we would buy the iPhone SE for, but we're not. We're just going to get them the iPhone 13 mini. It's a similar size and form factor in terms of screen. That's the thing they like. But we also know they don't update very often. So it's like usually we would get them the iPhone SE. That's why we got them the iPhone 8 back when we did. But now we're looking at the 13. I don't really know who the iPhone SE is for anymore. Maybe in this next update, it'll make it a little bit more clear. But as of now, I'd probably stay away from it unless it's for a kid or something. I think teen/kid/your first iPhone, that's a good way to go. Other than that, man. And also, I will say, we'll get to some of the more affordable, stocking stuffers later. Obviously, you're not buying everyone an iPhone. This is more for the people that you really love, the people you actually care about. We'll get to the other stuff later, but we're just going kind of through in the most popular order.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about picking up an iPhone for a teen, a parent, in-law, aunt, uncle, I think 12 or 13 is just the way to go. I would probably, like Matt said, probably just avoid that iPhone SE if you can, and you will be the star of the holidays for gifting an iPhone. You are a great person. Wow, I'm impressed. So those are some tips for that. Matt, that it for iPhone, right? There's not a whole lot to sort of,
I guess kind of going back to what I was saying, though, we could talk about this later too, but stocking stuffers, if someone already has the iPhone, get them a case, get them... what else? What other accessories? A battery, something, that kind of stuff. There's lots of little
cool
things
MagSafe stuff.
Yeah, MagSafe accessories. We could talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, there's stuff around the iPhone as well that you can get them.
And I will say,
just be an iPhone.
Quick side note, I actually, because I wanted to use more of these MagSafe accessories, I'm into this stuff now. We just did a video on the channel with all this Anchor stuff. I'm like, I kind of want to try that out. I want to really use it. I have one on my desk, one on my bedside table, really try to utilize MagSafe. The case that I had wasn't really working with MagSafe, so I spent the money on like a genuine Apple silicone case. And I got to say, it's been a long time since I've bought a legit Apple case, and even the silicone case for that matter, and it's really nice. The fit is great. The material is a lot better than I remember. Looks good. Obviously works well with MagSafe. So you can definitely find cheaper cases and even sometimes better cases from other companies. But the Apple way is always a safe way to go and always a good way to go because you are getting what you pay for and there is quality stuff there. So just know that if you go the Apple route, you're not sort of getting price gouged so much because it does have good quality. It works as advertised. And just sort of keep that in mind as you do your case shopping. The stuff on Amazon can be like $10, $15, but it might fall apart in a month or two. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, that's the iPhone. What else should we talk about? We got Macs, we got iPad, we got Apple Watch. I think we can hit the Macs quickly because if you're buying someone a Mac, mostly I would have to say, well, obviously you're doing a great service. They're going to be really happy with it. But on the other end of that, if someone is asking for a Mac, they probably have a very specific brand, or not brand, but line. They want a MacBook Pro, they want a MacBook Air, an iMac. They kind of have probably told you what they want if you're actually in the market for buying someone a Mac. But I think it's maybe a good place to say what we shouldn't buy. So if someone is asking for this particular computer, maybe you tell them, you know what, hold off, I'll get it for you later. And I think the biggest one that I think of, at least right now, is the Mac Mini. If someone's asking for a Mac Mini, I would hold off just a few more months if you possibly can. I would not buy the M1 Mac Mini right now. Is there any other computer that you can think of, or do you agree with that?
100% agree. 27-inch iMac, do not buy that. Please, at all costs, do not buy that desktop. And see, this is where it gets tough. So I can think of two right off the bat. The one that's less controversial maybe is the 13-inch MacBook Pro that still exists with Touch Bar.
Yeah.
I don't think you should probably buy that. I think if you're going to commit to a MacBook Pro, just go to one of the newer ones.
Yeah, or get a MacBook Air.
Right.
But I'm sure you're going to mention
and
MacBook Air right
that's my next point is MacBook Air. Now, here's what's tough. It's just rumors. It's just all rumors and speculation that next year we will get a MacBook Air. I think that that's probably a safe assumption that sometime in 2022 we will get a new MacBook Air. And unfortunately, the rumors point to a pretty significant update. Redesign, colors, new processor, better display, notch, MagSafe. It seems like this is actually going to be a pretty significant update. So again, I have to say that if your loved one or whoever you're buying this computer for kind of really likes the latest and greatest, I guess even not. This is tough because, yes, a new MacBook Air is coming, but we don't know when. So if you're thinking
it could be a whole year.
Exactly.
Honestly.
So I think that if you're thinking about buying a MacBook Air for your child, a teen, someone going off to college, the MacBook Air as it stands right now is not a bad way to go. It's a great machine. It's got the M1 processor inside, and oftentimes you can find them for a pretty good deal as well. So especially if there's a good deal on one, MacBook Air is not a bad way to go. But just to kind of give you the full picture here, a new MacBook Air is expected for next year, so just don't be blindsided when the update comes and it's totally new. Man, this one's tough, Matt. MacBook Pro is like an obvious like recommendation, like if you know someone's going to need that. But what would you say to someone who's looking for their high school senior about to go to college or their middle school child going to enter a freshman in high school who needs a laptop? Do you recommend the MacBook Air? Because it's hard not to, but also it's hard to recommend it when you know something big is right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to always the same buying advice as always, which is if you need the computer, you got to get what's out right now. You can't be waiting on rumors because you just really never know what's going to happen. So if you do have a kid that needs a computer for school or because they don't have one and you need a computer, then get it. The MacBook Air is perfectly fine. The only thing about it is that we kind of know that something new is coming, but that's kind of always the case. We have rumors of every single new computer. I guess the new MacBook Pro rumors have not started quite yet. Well, no, they actually have started. We've got rumors of the new MacBook Pro already. So there's always something new coming. So you can't really base anything on that. I would say definitely get the MacBook Air over the MacBook Pro 13-inch. There's not a big difference there unless for whatever reason someone really wants a touch bar. Even then I'd say no because the touch bar is gone on the other computer. So it's long for this world. So MacBook Air, definitely get that. 24-inch iMac, definitely buy that. There might be a chip update to that, but even if there was, I think you'll still be perfectly happy with the new redesign and all that. And then the MacBook Pros, like you said, of course. If you're, I don't know who in the world's doing this, but if you're looking to gift a Mac Pro, probably don't do that. But yeah, I don't think anyone's gifting a Mac Pro.
No.
Well, I don't know. I would love to know how many gifts of Mac Pro have ever happened.
You know
for
what?
This new generation.
I'm not going to name names, but you and I both know someone who was gifted a Mac Pro a couple years back. So it has happened. I'll tell you that story. I
think I know, but I can't think of it. Really.
It's someone we know in the virtual world. So I'll leave it at that. But let's just say it has happened. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I probably would not recommend gifting a Mac Pro for multiple reasons. But I guess on that topic, if you know someone who is maybe a college student getting into film, graphic design, MacBook Pro, wonderful way to go. And then if you're looking for a family computer, iMac is, like Matt said, great way to go as well. So iMac and MacBook Pro, two easy recommendations. Maybe even like if you're looking for a parent, we'll get to the iPad in a minute. So maybe hold off until we talk about that. But if you're looking for someone who wants
that part.
If you want someone who wants, like I'm thinking of like my parents, they like a nice desktop computer, so they're put in the kitchen, put in the office. iMac is a wonderful way to go. And then again, for those who you know in your life who are a little bit more pro-focused students, I think like college students, MacBook Pro is a great way to go as well. So I think Macs are pretty easy recommendation there, right? I think that's kind of wraps up Macs.
Yeah, there's actually not that many options, so kind of is what it is. But that kind of brings us to the iPads, which you kind of brought up a point that I didn't even think about, which is for a lot of people, especially maybe the older generation, an iPad might be a better idea than a Mac. I know my grandparents use the iPad way more than they ever used a desktop computer. My mom uses an iPad all the time, even though she does also use a desktop computer. So there's a lot of reasons why getting someone an iPad might be a better idea than a Mac. But also, on the same page, some people just want an iPad for an iPad. And this year, we have a lot of options. So we have the iPad Pros. man, I struggle with the iPad Pros because compared to it's not like the Macs where the MacBook Pro is like clearly way better than all the other computers. The iPad Pro is technically better, but for the vast majority of people, I mean, I don't know. I don't see the real big reason, especially as a gift product, to need that over something like the iPad Air. Now, the iPad Air is a little older, so it's running the A14 Bionic
I believe
chip?
so, yes.
I believe it was the first product with the A14. Yeah, that's right, because they announced it before they announced the iPhone at their own event, and that was kind of weird that they announced the processor before they did the the iPhone. But I mean, A14 chip is still great. You're not going to really notice anything bad there. But we also do have this new iPad mini, which for all intents and purposes is like the same feature set as the iPad Air, it's just smaller. It's so hard to judge who would want the iPad Air in real life because online, everyone loves it, but I've literally never heard anyone in my real life talk about it or care about it. So I don't know who would actually want that.
See, that's an interesting observation because in my mind, I think the iPad Air is like the perfect middle ground for almost everybody. I know my sister-in-laws are college age and high school age who love design and drawing, and they love to illustrate on the iPad, and the iPad Air is perfect for them because it uses the Apple Pencil. It's got the processor that can handle it. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like for a lot of people, just that nice form factor, you're getting Touch ID. I guess I don't know. Now the more that I think about it, maybe not. But I love the iPad Air. Has always been my de facto recommendation. And I think that you just get a little bit more of a premium experience and a little bit of a better experience with that over the kind of baseline cheapest iPad. And I think those are going to be the two biggest gifts. In my opinion, iPad is obviously an explosive category for sales. It always is like booming over the holidays. And one of the big questions for this year is really going to be, I think it's going to be iPad mini, regular iPad, or iPad Air. The iPad Pros are nice, but like you said, it's like the MacBook Pros. It's like you really got to know that someone's going to really push that device to its limits and really need all that power to really justify that purchase. I think it really comes down to the other three. And what would you say to someone who's looking to give just a good iPad for a family member? Maybe it's an elderly person, maybe it's an aunt or uncle or a parent. What is sort of your general de facto recommendation as the iPad most people should get? Because I'm torn between the regular iPad and the iPad Air, to be honest.
It's not even a question for me. It's the iPad Air. The regular iPad, I think, is for like a child, like your first iPad. Like you're going to run some education software in there. It's for YouTube videos and entertainment. That's what I think that is. I mean, obviously there's a lot of other use cases for it, but that's just in my mind. That's like very much the entry-level iPad that you don't want to spend any money on or as little money as possible on, especially with some of the deals that you can find on them. The iPad Air is for the person who wants an iPad and they want the iPad experience and they plan on actually using the iPad for iPad things. You're getting the full experience there, like you said. I think that's the way to go over the cheapest iPad and definitely over the iPad Pro. I mean, the money is probably not worth it. Yeah, I'll be interested to see after this holiday season what the iPad mini sales are because I think that's when we're going to get our first real indication. Is this a product people want or is it just a product Apple decided to refresh one more time for whatever reason?
And I think speaking of iPad mini, as we give our recommendations, I'm a little hard-pressed to recommend the iPad mini. I'm not really sure who would really like that form factor. And also, because of the scrolling issues I had on mine, I'm still hesitant to recommend it to a lot of people anyway. So I don't think a child is the right person for the iPad mini. I think
it's too expensive for that.
Too expensive.
That's the problem. Yeah.
I think that most people who want an iPad, it's just too small. This is maybe a great secondary iPad if you're a multi-iPad person like Matt.
That's what I'm using mine for.
But I don't want to say don't buy the iPad mini as like my recommendation for the holidays, but I probably wouldn't buy the iPad mini unless you specifically know someone wants it for a very specific reason because it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, especially because the iPad Air just makes way more sense.
Right. That's the thing. If the iPad Air didn't exist and it was iPad mini or iPad Pro, then that's a different conversation. But considering you're getting basically just the iPad mini experience and a bigger form factor, iPad Air is the way to go. Not to mention another gift idea. Maybe someone already has an iPad. get them an Apple Pencil, maybe
Mm-hmm.
Apple Pencil 2, Apple Pencil 1, depending on which iPad they have. That would be a great gift, because I know for a lot of people they want that, but they're like, it's an extra $130. I don't know if I really need it. I'm not going to use it that much. Well, there you go. That's a good gift idea. That's not quite as much as the full price of an iPad. And then another thing would be keyboards. The Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pros. Oh, it doesn't work on the iPad Air, huh? Or does a Magic Keyboard work on the iPad Air?
I think it does.
Let me look.
I was not looking it up. I think it does. I think that the only one the Magic Keyboard doesn't work on is the regular iPad. So I think the iPad Air does support the Magic Keyboard. I want to say.
Okay, here we go. Compatible with 12.9 inch, 11 inch, and iPad Air.
Perfect.
So yes, it does. So
Great.
If you know someone with an iPad Air or iPad Pro, big or small, and they just had never bought the iPad Magic Keyboard because it is rather expensive, starting from $299, I think it's $350 for the bigger version. That would be an excellent gift, because that really does transform how you use the iPad. And honestly, like, if someone has never used it and you got them that, I think it would be as exciting as getting the iPad in itself, because the way that you use, well, maybe not as excited. I'm getting ahead of myself.
For me, it is.
You still need the iPad. Yeah, but for someone like you, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you probably wouldn't even use the iPad if you didn't have the Magic Keyboard, right?
Yeah, for me, the Magic Keyboard has totally transformed the iPad in my mind. It's made it this like tablet to something way more usable. I guess just because I like a traditional keyboard and mouse setup, so it just sort of makes sense. But yeah, I think for a lot of people, if you love your iPad, adding that Magic Keyboard is not a boring gift. It's actually kind of exciting,
No, it's
at least
exciting,
in my mind. And I think it just totally makes the iPad even more useful. So especially good. I mean, like you said, it's not cheap, so it's a not expensive. Well, it can be expensive. It's not a small chunk of change to put out for a accessory, but I do think that it adds a lot of value for the iPad owner in your life.
Here's a question. Would you recommend people buy the regular Magic key? Or I guess it's not the, what's it called? The Magic Folio
Smart Folio keyboard?
Smart Folio. It's not Magic. It's Smart.
Not at all. I don't know what the price difference is, but I can tell you whatever it is,
look it up real quick.
that trackpad built in is a game changer. Also, well, first off, the keyboard is significantly better on the Magic Keyboard, and also having that trackpad totally transforms the iPad in terms of functionality and usability. And I had used the Smart Folio on older iPads. It was nice, but go with the Magic Keyboard. 100% worth it. I promise you.
So it's $179. So it's $130 difference for the entry levels of each versus the Smart Keyboard Folio versus the Smart or Magic Keyboard. God, I'll never ever get these names right. There's so many Magic and Smart. So I mean, that is a decently big chunk of change difference between the two, but I pretty much agree. The keyboard, the Smart Folio keyboard, is a nice accessory, but the Magic Keyboard transforms how you use the iPad, which you can't say about the Folio. Like, for instance, I use mine in so many different ways. I use it as a dock because it has magnets, so you can easily take it off and use the iPad as an iPad, put it back on, use it as a keyboard. And because it has that USB-C pass-through, every time I pick up my iPad, it is always fully charged. And then you can use it as a laptop. It's got a nice floating design, all the stuff that you probably already know about the Magic Keyboard. But that's a great accessory. If you can't quite get to that, $500 plus for the actual iPad, if you still want to give someone a really nice gift, this is the way to go. I have, shameless, I have the black and the white one. So they're both great options. I have had the white one. I use it every day, and it still looks brand new. No dirt, no anything. So don't worry about that for the white one. Both are great options.
100% agree. I have the black one. It gets a little dirty, but it still works great. It still has held up really well. Obviously, as you sort of travel around with this stuff, it's going to get a little used, but still works great. And yeah, I think that iPad is a great way to go. Unfortunately, again, when you add everything up, like if you're looking to get someone an iPad Air and a Magic Keyboard, you start to sort of creep into MacBook Air territory. So that's maybe another conversation that we can have, but it really just comes down to, I think a MacBook Air is great for someone who needs a computer. iPad's great for someone who needs an iPad and just sort of wants to consume content and draw and stuff like that. And I think for most people, iPad Air is just the way to go. I would not really consider the Mini. You could consider the Pro, but probably not worth the price tag.
Yeah, no, totally agree. All right, that brings us to the Apple Watch. I think we hit this one real quick because there's only a few options.
Yep.
First, don't buy the Apple Watch Series 3. Just stay away from it. They'll try to sell it to you. I'm sure there's going to be some excellent deals on the Apple Watch Series 3. Don't buy it. Don't fall for it. It's not worth it. I mean, okay, I think we both agree you shouldn't buy it. What is maybe a reason you can think why someone should buy it? I don't even know if you have a reason. I can't think of any.
I guess the price. That's the only compelling thing.
But
is
even the price,
but
it's not worth it.
Even for the price, I will say, first off, we know Apple is eventually just going to drop support for that like older format anyways.
Probably not that
and
far from now.
the screen is significantly smaller. The processor is slower. Just like Matt said, please do not buy it. It's just not worth it. Buy the Apple Watch SE. That's my pick for everybody. It is a great choice. You're getting the better screen. You're getting better battery life. You're getting more features. That is the way to go. Do not buy the Series 3.
Exactly. And the Series 3 starts at $199. Series SE, do they call it the Series SE? No, it's just the SE, is $279. So $80 difference. You're getting a vastly superior watch with all the, like you said, all the new screen, all that kind of stuff. It's the Series 4 for all intents and purposes, which is what I was using until the Series 7. And really, if I didn't buy the Series 7, I would be perfectly fine with that Series 4. Get the SE. I'd actually recommend getting the SE for anyone. If you're looking for a gift, SE is probably a pretty good way to go, unless you know that they want the Series 7. But even then, like, I don't know. I would talk to them about it.
That's what's tough. Is I just went through this a couple days ago. My brother-in-law it was his birthday, getting him an Apple Watch, and there was debate about SE, and then the bigger debate about 6 versus 7. The 7s are really hard to come by now. There are some good deals on the 6. Do you really need the 7 versus the 6? In my opinion, I don't think so. I think that if you can find a good deal on the Apple Watch Series 6, very much like it was the case with the iPhone 12 versus the 13, yeah, there are some slight bells and whistles, a slightly larger screen on the Series 7. There's like that faster charging, I guess. But I think in most cases, if you can find a good deal on the Series 6, go with the Series 6 because the Series 7 not only is harder to find, it's more expensive, but it's probably not worth it for most people.
Yeah, and that's where it gets a little tricky, though, because I would agree with that, but the Series 6 is no longer sold, which means they're not making them anymore, which means you basically have to rely on stock, which there definitely is stock, so you can definitely find them. But at the same time, that's going to be dwindling, especially as the holidays get closer and closer. But at the same time, I don't think the Series 7 is going to get any more stock. It's going to still be trickling out.
Yep.
So you're kind of in a catch-22. You can get the older one, which is still very good watch, but the supplies will slowly start deteriorating, and you just can't buy the Series 7 right now. So, yeah, I agree, though. If you can find a good deal on a Series 6, which you probably will, because people are going to want to move them, get them out of their inventory, because it's an old product at this point, that's probably the way to go. They don't do refurbished Apple Watches on Apple's site, do they?
I don't think so. I'd have to double check. I mean, I guess with all this stuff, you could always go with the used market and you could save some money, but then there's always a gamble there with shipping and condition and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like
we're talking strictly new here.
Exactly. It always feels weird if you're like, oh, I got you a new, well, not new, but
new to you.
Obviously, any gift is good, but it's just usually we're talking new here. Yeah, I think it's kind of complicated with the Apple Watch, not because of which Apple Watch we should buy, but because of the stock.
Yep.
And you kind of just have to find what you can find at this point, honestly. Like, hopefully, whoever you're getting this gift for will like it. I'm sure they will. But let's put it this way. Anything besides the Series 3, if you get it for them, they're going to like it. It's going to be a good watch. So kind of find what you can find, and hopefully the one that you actually want is in stock.
And I guess we can touch on very briefly, I guess just so you guys know, the differences between SE and a 6 or 7.
Good point.
Biggest ones, always on display. I don't think the SE can do an ECG.
No, it does not have ECG.
So no ECG. And then I think there's like some other little things. Those are the two biggest things I can think of. Matt, what are the differences? I don't even know between 6 and 7.
Those
are the two biggest.
Actually, I think those are the actual differences. Let me bring up a, what do you call it? A compare sheet here on the Apple website. So SE versus Series 7. 44 versus 40. So they're slightly different sizes.
Right.
Let's see. Going through waterproofing. Doesn't have the blood oxygen levels like the Series 6 or the Series 7. No ECG. And you can get LT on both. Yeah, that's about it. Doesn't have the faster charging. Yeah, no, those are the only differences.
See, I think
it's not that big of a difference.
For most people, SE is a great way to go. Unless if you want the always on display, which I think for a lot of people is a deal breaker, then I would upgrade. I know for my dad, he always loves that traditional look of the watch. I know he's watching this podcast right now. So hi, Dad. I know you're listening or watching. So we upgraded him from like a Series 1 to a Series 6, and it was a night and day difference for him. And one of the biggest things he loves is the always on display. So I think that if you know someone who's going to want that and maybe those additional health features, then it makes sense. But for most people, my wife has an SE. She loves it. I know lots of people who have the SE. It's a great way to go. It's oftentimes significantly cheaper and gives you most of the functionality. Like you get, you can do Apple Fitness Plus workouts. You get your rings. You get your notifications. All that stuff with the SE. Great way to go.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, let's get to what may be the hit of the year.
Yep.
Maybe. Only because it was at one point, and that's AirPods. So AirPods 3 have just been released, and just in time for the holidays. I mean, there's obviously a reason they released it now instead of waiting till next year when they already waited for like a year anyway. And that's because the holidays are coming, and these are, I wouldn't call them a stocking stuffer, even though they're the size of a stocking stuffer. They're a little bit on the more pricey side, but I guess that brings up the question. They still sell the AirPods 2, which is the quote-unquote original AirPods, even though technically they were updated. They also have the AirPods Pro, and we won't really talk about the AirPods Max right now. The AirPods 2 versus 3 versus Pro, which one do you think is the one that most people will want, and also which one is worth buying?
This is so tough because this is one area in particular where the deals are going crazy. I just saw, scrolling by my Twitter feed right now, AirPods 2 on sale for $90. Under $100 for AirPods 2.
Deal.
This is one of the most difficult ones because the deals are so crazy and the differences are not that significant, at least between 2 and 3. So first, let's make this simple. If you are someone, or the someone you're buying this for, wants active noise cancellation, go AirPods Pro, because AirPods 2 and 3 don't have that. It is really nice to have. If they're doing a lot of commuting, if they are traveling like on airplanes, I guess, if they're doing a lot of workouts, I think the active noise cancellation is worth the premium price because it's a great feature. I think that's really what it comes down to. AirPods Pro, that's the one sort of advantage it has, and the silicone tips. Those are the big differences, so that's where I would recommend AirPods Pro. The big question, though, is between AirPods 2 and AirPods 3, because really the only difference is there's a design change, which is sort of take it or leave it, and then for most people, the 3s do sound can I even speak? The 3s sound significantly better, there we go, than the 2. And that's where it kind of comes down to audio quality and audio fidelity. Spatial audio is also on the 3s as well. So that's where it's tough. In most cases, I'd recommend AirPods 3. But then you have two issues. One is that AirPods 2 are going on sale so crazy low that it's hard to pass up that deal. And I've also seen the inverse where AirPods 3 and AirPods Pro are like $10 difference. Then it's like maybe you should just go to AirPods Pro. So what do you think about all this, Matt? Where does your decision sort of fall with all this?
Man, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I have the AirPods 3. I'm not using them right now. I'm using the AirPods Pro right now. And the main reason is because, the biggest issue a lot of people have with the regular AirPods, the number 2 and the number 3, Gen 2 and Gen 3, is I think the biggest issue a lot of people have is the fit. Some people, they just don't fit in their ears. Some people, they fit great. AirPods 2, the original design, fit perfect in my ears. Like, I don't even feel them. They're great. AirPods 3, I thought fit perfectly in my ears, but I also disagreed with everyone that they sounded better. They sounded way worse to me. What I realized is they actually don't fit in my ears very well. The channel is actually going into my ear like skin instead of going into my ear canal. So when I adjust them, then I'm like, whoa, this sounds way better. But then they don't fit very well and they kind of want to fall out. So, I mean, you're never going to know if they fit you until you wear them. That's just the kind of the issue with AirPods 2 and 3. But I would say if you're in the market for a 3 and you find the Pros for a similar price, I'd say get the Pros, honestly. Like, if you're in the market for that price point, wait until you find a deal on the Pros, which will happen, I guarantee it. If it isn't already happening right now, I've seen them in the past. So it will happen again. Get the Pros. They sound good, plenty good enough. You get the transparency mode, you get the noise cancellation. I'm super happy with them. And I think what the bigger thing is, you'll know they'll fit most people's ears. Like, technically, yes, to some people, the original AirPods and the AirPods 3 might feel better. But at the very least, you'll know that the AirPods Pro silicon tips which you can swap out for different tips, will fit your ears, which you can't always say about the original AirPods. That's kind of my take after experiencing all of them, because I have had all of them. Either way, though, AirPods are still the best on the market. I think if you get someone AirPods, they're going to be happy with them, especially if they're in the Apple ecosystem. I don't think you can really go wrong. It's all about those deals, like you said. Look for the best deal you can find, and honestly, I think whoever you get them for will be happy.
And here's where it's so difficult right now. I'm at Walmart.com right now, and here's their current lineup and prices. AirPods 2, $89. Great deal.
That's a good deal.
No wireless charging case, but honestly,
okay.
Take it or leave it. Yeah, you don't really need it. For $90.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the price.
Great deal. Okay. AirPods 3, $175.
So that's $4 off the retail?
Whatever.
$179 for Apple.
Hey, $175 for AirPods 3. AirPods Pro, $190. So
totally worth AirPods
$15 difference?
It's
Go
totally
with
worth
the
it.
AirPods Pro.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only argument I would say is that they are 2 years old, and we know at some point they're going to be a new version.
Yes.
But that's always the same conversation we always have. Okay, let me say that this is maybe a reason not to get the AirPods Pro, which we've talked about a few times here, is that they do break very often. That being said, Apple fixes them, no issues, no questions asked. So I don't really think that's a big of an issue. If they do break, you'll get them fixed for free. I still think get the AirPods Pro, especially if you find a deal like that.
100% agree. I mean, that's just, these are going to fly off store shelves. AirPods are always super popular, and I think this year is a little tough because for like most people, it's going to be whatever's cheapest. And I think that people will love AirPods too. That's what's going to be so tough is AirPods 3 make a lot of sense, but with the deals of AirPods 2, I'm curious to see how they sell. And then with AirPods Pro so close, that also makes a lot of sense. So who knows? That is a tough decision.
And it's interesting with the sales, because when the original AirPods first came out and they really took off, it was over the holidays because they became kind of a status symbol where people could see that you had the AirPods, and that's when they really took off. Because before that, everyone was making fun of them. It's like you had, toothbrushes in your ears, and it looked kind of funny. But as soon as they took off, I mean, they're super popular. So I wonder if a similar thing will happen with this new design. Because now it almost looks like you have the AirPods Pro, but you really have the AirPods 3, so you did save some money, kinda. I wonder if there's going to be a similar effect over the holidays. I'm not completely convinced. I think AirPods are kind of AirPods at this point. I mentioned this too. It seems like it's somewhat of a trend that people are starting to use wired earbuds again as like a fashion accessory, which don't even get me started on that, but it seems like that's happening. But yeah, either way, get AirPods. You'll be happy with them. Find the best deal you can. AirPods. I love my AirPods.
And I guess just to round out AirPods Max are also on sale.
Totally forgot about those.
But I don't know if I'd really recommend that as a stocking stuffer.
No, not a stocking stuffer. Although, I mean, so I've had mine for a while. You just got one.
I love them.
A pair.
I gotta say,
you love them?
I love them as someone who does wear a lot of. I have these Sony's whatever Mark III. They're great noise canceling headphones, but I love the AirPods Max specifically because one, that Apple ecosystem tie-in is so nice. Transparency mode is great. Noise cancellation is great. Battery life is not as good as I thought. I think that's just because of that weird thing with the case where they don't really ever turn off. And I always am very particular to put them back in the case and close it up. But the battery drain still seems to be more than AirPods Pro for me. But besides that, I love them. But as much as I love them, this is a hard gift to justify, not only because they're expensive, but also you have to find the right person who wants these, because I think still AirPods Pro, even for like someone who loves music, is just something that makes more sense than AirPods Max. Who should you buy AirPods Max for? Who is worth splurging for, Matt, in your opinion, to buy AirPods Max?
Honestly, someone like me who I bought AirPods Max, but there is very much a world where I wouldn't have bought AirPods Max, but I definitely would want them. So it almost seems like the gift, like it would be a good gift for someone who wants them, but they're just not they're not gonna get it, because it's like it's almost an irresponsible purchase for a lot of people. Like they're expensive enough where it's not an instant buy, not a justified purchase for a lot of people, but also there's plenty of people who would want them. So if you have that someone in your life, I think this is more relegated to like your parents or your husband or your boyfriend or
the
girlfriend,
Apple
like
enthusiast who has it all.
the Apple enthusiast has it all, but also someone you really care about and you have a very personal connection with, so you know they will like them and they will use them, then I think it's a good one because it almost takes the pressure off their shoulders. It's a product they really want, but they don't want to buy themselves, and they'll really appreciate that gift. But still, I think most people probably shouldn't. You shouldn't be spending that much. But there have been some pretty good deals, and I know that's why you bought them. So if you find a good deal on them, then maybe that's the time to get them. AirPods aside, well, not AirPods aside, but kind of a question here from one of our listeners, Jack. It was a long paragraph, but here's one part of it. I've been looking into getting the new Beats Fit Pro true wireless earbuds, which we didn't even talk about Beats, so this is perfect. They look very sleek, especially the white model. If I end up getting them, I plan on using them for the gym. Currently on AirPods Pro, but they can get a little discomforting after a while. Thoughts on the Beats True Fit Pro, or Fit Pro True? I guess general Beats in general. Thanks for sending in that question. But yeah, we didn't talk about Beats at all. I kind of forget that Apple makes Beats.
Me too.
What do you think about Beats over AirPods especially?
This is tough. I think for me, and I think for everybody else, you would just have to try them. I have not had any experience with them, so I can't really speak to them. I do know, though, that our producer, Ralph, he got them, and he loves them. And he had AirPods Pro, but he likes the wingtips that you get with these Beats. He says they sort of are more secure in his ear. They don't fall off as easily. And I think I don't know if he's going to keep them, but I know that he likes them at least right now. This is definitely something you have to try, I think, because I don't know. The specs are so similar that I guess unless AirPods Pro are uncomfortable for you or the fit isn't right, then it would make sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what it seems like. The Fit Pro, what's the name here? Beats Fit Pro True wireless earbuds, whatever. These new versions have that wingtip, which means they will stay in most people's ears better. So I think if you're really into if you're someone who's really into fitness and doing a lot of working out and that kind of stuff, you have the wireless, not the wireless, you have the waterproofing, or water resistance rather, and you have all the same basic features as AirPods Pro. So it's not a bad way to go, I don't think. Yeah, I personally don't like the way they look that much, and I think the case is a little big for my taste. So it's not something I really care about, especially since I have AirPods, so I'm not going to buy another pair of, basically the same thing I already have. I shouldn't say that because I definitely do that all the time. But yeah, I think Beats are still very much a viable product for a lot of people. I would say that's more for the person who never asked for AirPods, but rather asked for wireless headphones. Like, I would really love to have some wireless headphones. If someone specifically asked for AirPods and you got them Beats, they're probably going to be disappointed because they're probably wanting it less for the sound and the fit. Yep. They're looking for it more because they are an Apple AirPod product. But if someone's asking for just a good pair of wireless headphones, I think Beats are a good way to go.
I do want to mention, in addition to the Apple Watch Series 3 as a product you should not buy, as we get into more of these stocking stuffers, please, for whatever is good in life, do not buy the Apple TV HD because it is stupid expensive, it is super old, and not worth the money at all. And I guess now we have that cleared out of the way, let's talk about some other accessories, starting with the Apple TV. I will say, as someone who has used Rokus a lot, I really liked Rokus. They were more affordable. I liked the remote. The functionality was still there. It was great. After upgrading my living room Roku and replacing it with an Apple TV 4K, I love it. The ecosystem stuff the AirPlay stuff is really nice. I like the new remote, the channels. There's something about the Apple TV that is more premium in a sense. I don't know. It's more expensive, but I feel like you get what you pay for, and especially now that the remote has gotten fixed, I love the Apple TV and what it offers. I definitely think the Apple TV 4K is a great way to go, and sort of to that end, you don't need to get 64 gigs. They sell those two models, which I think is a little confusing for a lot of people. Yeah. Just stick with 32. If you can find a good deal on that, that's a great way to go. But please do not buy an Apple TV HD because I think it's not that much less than a 4K and super old, and just don't buy that one. Just please don't buy it.
Yeah, let me look. I'm looking at the prices now. So the TV 4K is $179. The TV HD is $149. You got to be out of your mind to buy the HD version. There's no reason. I will say, though, there's a lot of people that do have the HD or even the 4K that they've had for a while now, just sitting in the living room. That's actually how I was. I don't actually have a 4K. I've had the HD for years now. I just never really had a reason to upgrade. But I would say, maybe you don't have to buy someone an entirely new Apple TV, but they do sell the remote separately. Mm-hmm. That is a great gift, an excellent update to the already existing Apple TV that a lot of people already have. So maybe they're still using that Siri remote. If they're using the old Siri remote, you'll be able to replace it with this new Siri remote and it'll work no problems right out of the box. You just set it up and it works. That is an excellent, I'd call it a stocking stuffer. I mean, it's still a little bit
fits
pricey.
right in there. Just
yeah, but fits perfectly in a stocking. It's not crazy expensive, and I think it will. Would you say it revolutionizes the Apple TV experience?
It's a much more pleasant, significant upgrade because I have in my bedroom upstairs, I have the regular old Apple TV HD. Downstairs, I have the 4K. And besides, the boxes work pretty much the same, but the remote is a night and day difference. So that's worth it. And also to your point, even if you don't have an HD TV as of right now, they're just for the price does not make. There's just no reason to buy the HD because even if you don't have an HD TV, buy the 4K, then eventually when you do upgrade, because there are crazy deals on 4K TVs, then you'll be set. And also just again, for that price, you are much better off to future-proof yourself and get the 4K compatible version, use it in HD, than you are to buy the HD. And then when you get a new TV, be stuck with HD. I don't know why Apple still sells it. Just please do not buy the Apple TV HD. That's my last I'm going to say it. Just my words of a warning. Do not buy that model.
Honestly, I might say buy the Apple Watch Series 3 over or before you would buy the Apple TV HD. Like if you had to pick like which worst Apple product to buy first, I'd actually get the Apple Watch first.
I mean, especially since Apple TV originals can be viewed on other platforms. AirPlay is on other platforms as well, I think on other TVs. So if you're looking for like a cheap streaming box, go with Roku because Rokus aren't bad and Costco has great deals. They have like a 2-for-1 on Rokus. But if you want the Apple TV experience, which is great and all the benefits that come with that, go with the 4K, spend the extra $20 or $30. It is definitely worth it.
Yeah. And I think maybe going on along with the Apple TV section, which this is kind of its own thing, but it goes with the Apple TV well. The HomePod Mini now comes in different colors.
It's true.
$99. I wouldn't call that a stocking stuffer, but it's very much a giftable product, which, I mean, in years past, these smart speakers have always been a good gift option to give someone. HomePod, you just said you moved over a lot of stuff to HomeKit. Would you now recommend after using it? Well, I don't know if you have the HomePod, but now that you're using HomeKit a little more, would you recommend HomePod Mini?
Thinking about it, I'll save this for another episode. I was telling Matt before we started, I kind of ran this. There's this thing called Hoobs that basically will convert non-HomeKit devices. HomeKit? Did I say that right? Non-HomeKit devices and bring them over to HomeKit. It's really simple and easy. Then it kind of lets you sort of harness the power of HomeKit, which is cool. But to that end, now I'm thinking about going and getting HomePod Minis for like every room because they sound really good. What I really want is to get 2 for the living room and use them as a stereo pair with the Apple TV. That's another kind of cool thing with the Apple TV is you can use them as speakers. That sounds really cool. But yeah, HomePod Mini, I totally forgot about that. That is a great way to go. And yeah, I'm thinking about making the move. Maybe we'll talk about this in another episode. But now I'm kind of all over the HomePod ecosystem. I want to go all on a HomeKit and replace all that stuff. But HomePod Mini is a great way to go. Another Apple product I just forgot about, but I guess we should mention, one that you shouldn't buy. I don't mean to say something offensive here to some of you, but I'm going to say it. I would not buy an iPod Touch. It's currently the only iPod. Apple still sells the iPod Touch. It's hard to find. You actually have to dig through the website to find it. I don't even know if they carry it in stores anymore. Just going to say this. I probably wouldn't buy that. Would you agree with that?
Probably not. Yeah, I would agree with that. There's a lot of other things you could spend your hard-earned money on. Like a broken iPhone or something.
Yeah. But HomePod Mini, great way to go. I'm trying to think, is that kind of it for Apple accessories?
For accessories, I mean, we forgot the one that is the most giftable and the most stocking stufferish, AirTags.
Oh, yeah.
That's a go for it. You buy an AirTag for everyone you know, $30, right? That's
$30 for one, a 4-pack for $100, right?
Yeah, go for it. Put them in all the stockings, put it in all of the gift wrap, or just hand it to the person. Whatever you do for the holidays, give someone you care about an AirTag. They're going to love it. It's going to work great. I mean, I have 2 of them. I don't even know I use them, but they're great that they're there for the time when I might need them.
Man, I can't believe we almost forgot. What a great point. Yeah, totally a giftable thing. Probably one of the best accessories that Apple. Yeah, and it's like the most affordable thing Apple sells. I just bought one I have one of my keys, and I bought one for my wallet because you know what? For $29, there's something about that peace of mind, knowing that if something was to happen, I could track it down. And I don't know, always kind of wanted that peace of mind with my wallet, have it on the keys. And especially for the deals right now, if you can find like a 4-pack for like $90 or whatever the sales are, AirTags are a great way to go. And I know tiles were always like a huge gift thing. My parents got like tiles as a gift.
Yep.
Give AirTags instead of tiles, and especially if they have either if they're in the Apple ecosystem, and great way to go. Perfect stocking stuffer. Good recommendation, Matt.
Yeah, and we kind of already mentioned this as well, but I'm looking at the Apple accessories section right now. The accessories for the other products. So cases, like we said, for the iPhone. You can get MagSafe accessories like the wallet and the battery. And then also things like a new watch band for someone who got a Apple Watch. Like maybe they just bought the Series 7. You can get them a bunch of different options. I actually got these off Amazon. It was like $15, but it's like a combo between a real clasp and the solo loop, because it just comes off like this and it's stretchy, but it actually looks kind of nice. Like it looks like a real band. Love these. This is actually probably my favorite watch bands I've ever had. Swapped it out for that yellow. But yeah, there's a lot of, Smart Folio for the iPad if you want just the cover instead of having the keyboard. Tons of options there of what you could do. Also, if you do know someone who has AirPods Max, maybe get them new ear cups, maybe a different color, or maybe a replacement version. I don't know. I haven't replaced mine, but I've thought about getting like white for my, or not, I guess they're silver technically, for my Space Gray to kind of get that contrast. I don't know. It could be a cool look. There's some things you can do there. But yeah, just go through that Apple accessories section. If you know someone that has one of those products, there's definitely something for them here.
I do think, too, that if you go the gift card route, which is always a great way to go, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the gift card is very multifaceted these days because it can be used for apps, it can be used for purchases through the store, but also it could be used for like Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, a great way to sort of give someone the gift of Apple TV Plus for a year, or Apple Music for like 6 months. An Apple gift card is not a bad way to go, and also super versatile because it can sort of buy more things than ever before. iCloud storage, if someone you know needs some more storage to back up their photos in their phone, give the gift of an Apple gift card to pay for iCloud storage. News Plus, Arcade.
Yep. So I'm looking.
Great ways.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the Apple gift card section on their website, and it says, where can I use my Apple gift card? Mac, iPhone, iPad, watch, accessories like AirPods and stuff. Obviously, that makes sense. But you can also use it on the App Store, Arcade, Music, Apple TV Plus, iTunes,
really
Apple
cool.
One, which is something I totally forget exists. But that's probably the best way to use your Apple gift card if you're looking at the services. Fitness Plus, iCloud, which now includes iCloud Plus, News Plus, and Books. So pretty much everything Apple sells, you can use that gift card. And then you can like personalize it. You can give them the right amount for like a few months of one of these services, or for a case or something like that. And you can send it over email or mail it to them or get the actual card. So, that's probably the best way to go if you don't know what to give someone.
Totally.
Gift cards are always nice, especially for a company like Apple.
And I will say, before we wrap up, we did get one sort of specific techie question that I thought we could answer. Someone did ask us about new MacBook Pros and accessories and a dock. Do you have a recommendation for a dock for the new MacBook Pros?
So let me move my stand out of the way. So I think you're still using this, but we have been using for a long time the CalDigit. What's the actual name of it?
I'm going to look it up. I think it's like the TS3 Plus or something.
That's what it is. The TS3 Thunderbolt dock. It's a Thunderbolt 3 dock. We've been using it for years. I'm trying to think of how long we've been using it, but it's been years at this point. It's great. So that's probably the one I would recommend, only because it's the one I have experience with. But really, any Thunderbolt 3 dock from a reputable brand is going to be good. Do they have Thunderbolt 4 docks yet? I can't remember.
I don't know. There are a handful of them out there. They're not the cheapest, so just sort of
none of these docks are cheap.
Don't get sticker shock. But what's great about this is your one cable solution, because this dock will charge the laptop. It'll give you like a bunch of USB-A ports, USB-C ports. This one from CalDigit gives us an SD card. So I'm looking right now. SD card slot, mic in, headphone, USB-C, USB-A on the front, and then a bunch of other ports on the back.
Ethernet
so
on the back,
tons of great
port,
stuff.
Yeah, everything.
So if you're looking for a great one cable solution, pick up a Thunderbolt dock. CalDigit one's great.
Yeah. CalDigit is what we're using, but really, if it's a reputable brand that's got good reviews, you'll be fine. Go ahead and pick it up. Find whatever one has the ports that you need, and you'll be good to go. And yeah, once you get that one cable life, it's kind of life-changing. It's so nice to actually be able to use your laptop as a laptop when you need it, but also get your entire desktop experience when you want that as well, all with that one cable, which is nice. Although it is weird, when I was using this as my when I was using the 14-inch as my computer, I would have to plug in the Thunderbolt, which is nice that you can charge over it, but then I was kept wanting to plug it into that MagSafe port because I thought that's where it went because I'm used to that. But yeah, that one cable solution is great. And thanks for that question. I mean, I think that's pretty much it. So we can wrap it up there. If you do want to ask a question about maybe what you're looking for the holidays, if it's very specific or just really anything else about anything in the Apple world, we do have that Apple Circle hotline. Again, the number is 949-354-3508. We appreciate everyone who has sent in questions. And also, if you enjoyed the podcast, head over to the Apple Podcasts. I think that's still what they call it. I don't think it's iTunes anymore. And give us a 5-star rating. That actually is one of the only ways where these podcasts can get promoted to other people is we have to know people are listening. So we appreciate everyone who does that as well. And we probably should have mentioned this up front, but if you don't like listening to these, but you'd rather watch as well, we have a YouTube channel with a video version of what you just listened to. So for the future, you can watch these instead of just listening. And all of that will be linked in the show notes. And yeah, all the info is there.
This has been, I think we just did the most comprehensive guide ever to buying Apple products. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you guys enjoyed it, thanks as always for listening.
Wait,
Whoa. Well, go ahead.
Last thing we did not talk about, my favorite product ever, the Pro Display XDR.
Ah, yes.
I'm actually going to say you shouldn't buy it. Just real quick, you probably shouldn't buy it. It's a little too expensive, and there's probably going to be an updated one, if not the 27-inch iMac coming. So real quick, last product. I think that's the only product we didn't mention from Apple. I'm trying to think. We're probably missing something.
If you're in the gifting mood, Matt would really, and I guess myself too, would really love a Pro Display XDR. So if you if you want to be Santa Claus over here on the Apple Circle podcast, we'll gladly.
I will
take
not
a Pro
say
Display
no.
XDR.
Yeah, I will gladly accept a Pro Display XDR. But yeah, that's the last one. Now we can say it's the most comprehensive of all of the Apple guides, and we figured this was a good time to do it before the holidays really start to ramp up, especially if you're looking for some of these more harder to find products. Hopefully you can get the gift that you want, either for you or for someone else. That's it for this week. See you next one.
See ya.